everyone! We know that 2020 has been a really weird year. Well, today is no different. We have xQc, the biggest streamer on Twitch, playing against Logic, a huge hip-hop star, two-time Grammy nominee.
Yeah, I loved his music growing up, and I would never expect to see him streaming chess on Twitch. But let me say, we're gonna be covering their first game, and it has the craziest result. No one's gonna be able to guess how this game ends, so.
I don't know why I moved my eyebrows. We're just excited.
You made me get awkward. I was about to say, let's get into it. So let's just get to the chess.
So in their first ever game, you have xQc with the white pieces versus Logic with the black pieces. xQc starts with e4. He loves moving his king pawn, and Logic plays very symmetrically. Knight f3, knight f6, bishop b5. This is the Ruy Lopez opening. It's one of the most common choices for white. It meets all of the things you learn as a beginner. You put your pawns in the center of the board, you develop your knights before your bishop, then you take out your bishop. You can castle very quickly if you want to. And here Logic replies with a6, which puts pressure on the bishop, so he decides to trade the knight, which is mainline theory.
Even though it's mainline, isn't it typically better to keep your bishops instead of your knight because you want the bishop pair? So how do you feel about this mainline?
Yeah, so often we're taught to try to keep bishops instead of knights. But what he's trying to go for here is to create another weakness, which is these doubled pawns. And for that situation, it's worth giving up your bishop pair.
Now, do you like Logic's move b takes, or do you think taking with a d pawn would have been better?
So taking with the d pawn is the main line here.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it's also opening up your bishop. So in the opening, you want to prioritize moves that help your pieces develop. That being said, if he didn't know theory, then it's totally okay.
It's not too bad. It doesn't make a huge difference. He'll eventually develop that bishop.
Right. And here xQc pushes d3, and what you might notice is that it seemed like his pawn was under attack on e5 here. The problem with knight takes e5 would have been queen e7 attacking the knight and putting pressure on e4. Even if you protect it, you can attack the knight away. You end up winning the pawn back.
xQc has studied his theory.
He actually has studied his theories because he played in two chess tournaments.
Yeah, he better have.
Yeah,
okay.
Coach Andrea. So what xQc does very wisely is he protects his pawn on e4. Now, this is actually a threat. And Logic misses it. He doesn't see the pawn, unfortunately.
He doesn't have that PogChamps experience yet to know his theory.
That's true. It's nice, though, that he's developing his knight. So if he's going to give a pawn, at least he's going for the development.
With a good intention.
So knight takes e5, queen e7. What do you think of this move, Andrea?
Well, now this idea doesn't work because the e4 pawn is not going to be hanging once the knight moves. And since there's no attack, he's just blocking his bishop on f8. For no reason, making castling more difficult.
I mean, there is one attack, but it's so basic that xQc defends it with one move, and he also helps develop.
Yeah. So that move actually helped xQc. It just gave him a tempo where he could develop.
And here, Logic attacks the knight, which I understand as a reflex. He's trying to open up that bishop, but now the problem is that pawn was protecting the c6 pawn.
Logic has good instincts trying to open his pieces, but one habit that beginners have to build in is to always ask themselves the consequence of their latest move, and so he doesn't see that he's leaving the c6 pawn undefended.
Right, you always want to try to think
always
about that.
Always ask yourself before you move what's going to change in the position.
So here xQc gobbles up the pawn. He's attacking the queen. Gobble, gobble.
A gobble, gobble.
I don't know why I did that. Anyway, so bishop g4.
Wow.
Wow.
Logic being bold, and I like it. I have to say, good instincts. Instead of being defensive and moving his queen, he ain't scared of no knights, no queen. He gives a nice counterattack, which actually in this position, since it's two minor pieces, the bishop attacking and the knight, there's not much to lose.
And here, xQc decides, you know what, I'm going to take care of that queen threat. So he attacks the bishop on g4, and Logic correctly remembers that, okay, I'm not just going to move my bishop away because it's under attack. My queen is more important. So he plays queen d7, and even though his bishop is hanging, well...
Yeah, that shows some very good discipline, because beginners always look at the latest threat and try to run away without remembering what was going on before that.
Right, and here he remembered, and he did end up getting the knight back. And now xQc is up 2 pawns. So he won the pawn on e5, and then he also won the pawn on c6. A very strong opening for him in terms of the quantitative value of pieces. So here logic pushes g5. What do you think of this move?
Normally, you don't want to push too many pawns before you castle, but I actually like this move just because the knight doesn't have neither the g4 or the h5 square, so he's forced to go back. So in this position, the pawn push is good. While it's kind of early, it's a good move.
All right, so he moves his knight back, and whoa, I pressed that move a little bit too quickly. And there's a lot of problems with this move. First of all, the pawn on g2 is hanging. Second of all,
Nice discovery attack.
the pawn on e5 is only defended once, but it is attacked twice. So we're just gonna go back. And here's one thing that we always remind beginners. Try to castle even earlier than you feel is needed, because we often see beginners pushing pawns before they've castled, and they end up getting in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. Got away with it once because that was a nice attack, but not 2 times. Got
Right.
a castle.
Keep your king safe. If the king is checkmated, it's over. You can't just let this happen. e5. Okay. And which pawn does logic decide to take? He takes the one on e5. And here xQc goes for something pretty ballsy. So this pawn is defended by the knight, and he decides to take it. But
Spending almost 40 seconds on this move.
which makes me think that he had some kind of tactic plan. And after queen e2, I'm guessing he thought that he could push d4 and also win the knight, or just take it with the queen.
But he missed that black could have played queen e6 here. And actually, with the queen defended by the f7 pawn, the knight is not going to be lost.
Right. But logic didn't see it. He played bishop e7, which
He's good
hey,
developing instincts, but danging too much
he
for this.
probably heard us telling him to castle, and we're just gonna go for that.
Yeah, he's trying to do what xQc didn't.
Yeah, exactly. xQc takes that knight. Good for him. He sees the tactic.
Very
and-
eager, but you gotta be careful. I'm just getting anxiety with this king and the queen on the same open file.
Right, because it looks like you're attacking the bishop on e7, keeping the king from castling, but are you really?
Let's see.
Well, xQc falls for the bait.
He
And-
falls for the Botez gambit. I bet he took that bishop in a second.
yeah, he
Thought it was
probably
a
played it
juicy
quickly.
bishop. Nope, there's your queen,
Big
buddy.
juicer. Yeah, I mean,
Big
I would
juicer
be baited
falls
too.
for small juicer.
Oh man, I feel bad because he was playing such a good opening, but I have to hand it to Logic for seeing this.
Eventually Logic's development while sacrificing pieces did pay off.
And here, let's just slow down for a second. So the king is under check. The problem is the queen is also attacking g2, so he should have played king f2
Yep.
to defend it.
Otherwise, he's gonna walk right into a fork, and that's exactly what happens. Now his rook is hanging, and that king is just running.
It's running, and also this knight cannot
This
move.
development, oh man, nothing can move. His rook can't move, his knight can't. All he has is pawns and his king versus a rook and a queen. No way that Logic is
He
gonna choke
also
this.
has hope, Andrea, okay? He's trying his best here. So what he tries to do is b3, which I love. He's trying to get his
Very
king
nice
to
maneuver.
defend.
Trying to defend, yep.
And
holding
can
down
you
the
talk
fort.
a little bit about playing on positions like this when you're in the 1,000 range? Because usually you're like, oh, you're down a piece. How much does it matter?
Yeah, I did say, it's completely winning. At this level, you don't want to resign unless, you see the checkmate coming, or even if they have all your pieces, there might be a stalemate at this level. So you always fight.
Yes, and I love the way he's fighting by trying to bring his pieces together and try to get them to coordinate as much as possible.
No, B3, this is also a great attitude that he's still finding good moves while losing, because a lot of people lose hope and just start playing badly and throw everything.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Logic is making it hard for him to keep hope. He sees
Wow.
rook e1, which is perfect because now the knight cannot move, or the rook on a1 is going to be hanging even after king b2 because it's going to be attacked twice.
So this is actually genius. I don't know if he thought this far, but it's like he saw the plan for king b2 to defend the rook. So now with his double attack, nothing works.
Right, and here what Logic should do is just hold the pin, maybe gobble up a couple of these pawns. He can even get checks and try to push the king away.
Yeah, get checks on the
Instead-
rook, maybe.
Yeah, I think he could.
There's
maybe
pawns,
there'd be
but that would
block.
open the rank.
Instead, what he does is something people occasionally do when they're out material, which is sacrifice just to simplify.
Well, this is typically a good strategy, maybe in like bullet, I'd say, or not if it's a such a difference like a rook and a knight, it's kind of tricky at this level because queen versus rook endgames, especially if there's no pawns, is very hard to win. Luckily here, Logic has much higher winning chances because he can just gobble those pawns, but still risky.
Yeah, and when Andrea says hard to win, she's referring to the 1,000 player range, which is not the point where you're going to learn those endgames yet.
Yeah.
So what Logic should try to do here is gobble up these 2 pawns or even trade one of them, create pass pawns, meaning that no other pawn can stop them, and try to get another queen. So we're going to play a little bit faster here since it looks like Logic should be winning being up a queen. Alright, so...
Nice, so he's trying to trade. xQc is trying to make a passer, which is, I like that he's keeping his pawn structure together.
Yeah, you should always try to keep your pawns close. There's that pawn that's going to try to get into a queen.
Push passers, pray to Daddy Yasser.
That is the rhyme we know. Yasser Seirawan, he's a very famous grandmaster.
Logic's obviously a fan.
Okay, so xQc now has 3 pawns versus 1, so his best hope is also to try to create a pass pawn.
Hope that maybe Logic's not paying enough attention to his plan and he can get some pass pawn.
And
now this is a very weird move.
Right. What should he have played instead?
Queen of 2 right away defending g1, and there's no way White's gonna have to give his rook for the pawn, and that is pretty easy to save.
Yep, but instead he plays Queen of 3.
I wonder if it was maybe a mouse slip or if he was scared of xQc's pawns.
Honestly, it may have been a mouse slip.
That's possible.
I like King C6.
Queen B6 would have been nice here with Queen B6.
Oh, are you gonna
following.
say checkmate, misses?
No. I was gonna say nice.
Okay, true. And also he could have checked here and then promoted. So
yeah, so there's lots of options. Could have gobbled up a few more pawns or promoted first.
But he did get
this
another
is still
queen.
Good though.
And here, xQc should have just taken the pawn because then he would have had 2 pass pawns. But instead he goes for the trade. And this would have given him the best chances to hold on. But okay, so he goes for it. And here we have a queen versus 2 pawns. The easiest way to keep it is Queen B6, check the king, and then just push the pawn.
Once he takes that B5.
But he doesn't go for that, and xQc keeps fighting.
He's close. He's close to the right square. And he sacks his queen. But I think it's still winnable because his F5 pawn is just 1 square more advanced than the C pawn, and with that extra pawn, it's probably still a winning endgame.
Although,
but it's very risky.
Queen B8 would be winning more easily.
Yeah, he's making it tough.
He's making it interesting. Okay, so here, they're both racing, but black is gonna get a queen faster.
And instead of pushing C7, xQc does a very suspicious king maneuver. Maybe he thought his king could reach the g-pawn, then realized the queen didn't allow it and changed plans.
Right, and even if he would have pushed the pawn, Logic could sacrifice his queen and push, but so I think
he's trying something.
Yeah, all right.
He's still fighting to every last minute.
Here, Logic should have taken the pawn. And one thing that happens is players sometimes get overconfident. They play too quickly and they give chances.
They get too distracted in their winning plans.
And here, he did give him chances because if you let your opponent get another queen at the 1000 rating,
you never know when there might be a Botez gambit.
Here, he should have traded.
Now just taking that queen.
But he doesn't.
Okay.
And xQc takes it instead.
You know, doing him the favor.
Why don't you do that, Andrea?
Now it's even easier to win. His best hope here for xQc would go for perpetual and check him and hope that he doesn't know how to end up blocking with his queen. But trading is just letting him get to the checkmate faster.
Right. And here, you're up a king and a queen. So let's see how he gets the checkmate.
So the first lesson I teach beginners is how to checkmate. The first endgame lesson is how to checkmate with the queen and king. Because it's crucial to know you need to bring the king to the corner, leave him 1 square, and while he just goes between 2 squares, you bring your king and eventually mate. But I don't think Logic had that lesson.
He stalemated. A stalemate is when the king is not under attack on the square it's currently at, but it cannot move to any other square.
And, maybe he just felt bad about xQc's PogChamp games, and, he was just trying to get off on a good foot.
So somehow this game
in
ended
the end,
in a draw.
it's all about friendship.
Is it?
No, I'm just trying to make it look less bad because this is a really bad stalemate.
Andrea! Well, you know, Andrea.
But I hope they become the best buddies
Oh,
and play chess while they grow old.
it's still a very cool combo.
And rap together and play games together. It's a beautiful friendship.
You know, 2020, Logic dropping his new
Anything
single
can
with
happen.
xQc. Exactly. It could be about chess.
Yeah.
Well, chat, we hope this was actually educational for you guys. Let us know. And if you've watched all the way until here, can you comment Andrea's a goblin in our chat? And I'll
Or
know that
if
you
you're
watched.
wiser, comment gobble gobble.
Andrea's a goblin. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
See how